Welcome to ETN 2.0. We have with us Chairman Richard Gordon of the Philippines. He's the chairman for Red Cross Philippines and a former senator and presidential hopeful. Sir, thank you for taking the time to be with us today and give us this opportunity to talk to you. I have some
Yeah, you're
specific.
welcome. Glad to see you again.
Yes, likewise. Okay, I just have a few questions, and this is all regarding what is the tragedy that happened in Tacloban for the most part, and some parts of the nation. There is a bone to pick by the scientific community with the current Philippine administration, with some saying, and I quote, "a tragedy that didn't have to happen," end quote. The current administration had at least a week notice with verified scientific data before Haiyan. Wouldn't that have been enough time to evacuate the areas in which the super typhoon's path was going to?
That's kind of harsh. The government did its bit. It really announced an evacuation, a preemptive evacuation. And you have to understand that Tacloban and that area was where General MacArthur landed. And they landed there because it was pretty much flat land. No possible cover. The mountains were far down about maybe 2 or 3 miles down or 4 miles down the road, even longer than that. Uh, Second, the problem with the announcement, if any, was in the description of storm surge. Many people are learning that for the first time. They would have been better off if the government had said, but this is Monday morning quarterbacking, if they had said tidal waves, all right? Tidal waves, or if they had described that, people would understand that a lot better. Unfortunately, that wasn't done. Although there were evacuations that went on, people there in that area are used to typhoons, and they, I suppose, felt that they'll be okay. But unfortunately, they did not realize that this typhoon was the biggest typhoon of the whole world to ever hit the whole world, and that it was going to generate storm surges or mini tidal waves, which is something that is not uh, exactly unknown in a PR manner,
Right.
not known in a PR manner, in a public relations manner. People know tidal wave or tsunami, but they don't know storm surge.
Right,
That's
right.
what caused many deaths.
Okay. That's I get that because I already had a conversation with the Philippine Department of Tourism at the ASEAN Tourism Forum in Kuching, Malaysia, and they said it was a semantics issue. Yeah, like you said, storm surge had never been
Um,
used before.
I don't think it's just a semantic issue. There really has got to be a lot of effort, and we have done. I co-authored the and sponsored the Philippine Risk Reduction, National Risk Reduction and Management Law. All right, and that talked about that. That's why we said risk reduction. We didn't call it disaster management. We called it disaster risk reduction. Those were the words I incorporated in the title of the bill and in the description. But I guess there's got to be a lot more homework done insofar as not just evacuation, but in not just in semantic language, semantic when announcing a typhoon,
Right.
or for that matter, I'll give you an example. When you say there will be a lot of rainfall, people don't realize that unless you say it's like Typhoon Ondoy.
Mm.
Now, the next one as big as Haiyan, people should be told it's as big as Yolanda.
Mm.
And people will be afraid and will know that they have to evacuate. But even if you have to evacuate, the lesson learned here will be to have so many trucks brought into the area right away to evacuate them into higher ground. All right?
Okay.
Uh, but I don't know if that was done, but certainly on their own, people might have been able to use their own transportation and gone farther away from the shoreline, because the typhoon hit the entire coastline of Samar on the Pacific side, and later, and that meant that it would really run smack into a very very strong waves, and at the same time 315 kilometer per hour winds.
Right.
So even if they evacuated to higher ground, they would then be exposed to waves, not to waves anymore, to huge waves, but to high winds.
Right.
And if they're exposed to the elements, they would really be more in danger. So the next question would be: do we have an evacuation center that would have taken the brunt of the typhoon, the winds of Haiyan?
Right.
That's a good question to ponder and to prepare on.
No. Okay. Even though, regardless of the terminology, the fact it was a verifiable statistic. The fact that those people tracking the hurricane 7 days in advance of the landfall, making landfall. This is 7 days. Even the Aquino administration used the word unusual strength, and then they said Yolanda came as no surprise. Why then? Like, how did you then explain some 6,200 people dead?
There are probably more than that, actually.
Really?
But
What
in
do you
reality,
think? Okay, from your
uh,
perspective as the Red Cross chairman, what's the death toll? Do you think? Is
no, no, I don't have a death toll. You see, the deaths that we count, the deaths that we see, we do not speculate. But because there are many people missing and many people
hmm,
have stopped practically caring because now they have to face with the even more grinding poverty.
right?
Probably it's not being reported, but I can tell you, up to about a few weeks ago, we were still getting bodies underneath the rubble, and we still are up to now. In fact, the Red Cross sent a refrigerated truck last month to pick up these bodies and put them in some form of dignified conditions. But I guess the Red Cross, at least I personally did. We have an operation center and we warned everybody about it. Evacuations are ordered by the government.
Right.
I warned our administrative staff, the chapters and the volunteers. Put out the word on the volunteers to be ready to rescue people and to try and evacuate at the proper time when the government says so. But unfortunately, well, we can only do so much.
Okay. Um, do you feel that a mandatory military evacuation should have been implemented for Tacloban, since that was the predicted um, area that was going to bear such brunt from Haiyan?
Nelson, again, that's Monday morning quarterbacking. Who's to say?
Mm.
In the first place, the military would not have the required trucks. They would need plenty of trucks to get there. When
But 7 days though,
happened,
right? Do you have to?
when Pinatubo happened in my area, in the city of Olongapo, I was in San Marcelino town where Pinatubo, which is the site of Pinatubo, that's 3 towns away from my city, and I was acting as Red Cross. But I was able to commandeer all the buses
Okay.
of Victory Liner, all the jeepneys, and we brought them to Olongapo. And when we got to Olongapo, we also got hit by Pinatubo by way of ash walls and a typhoon. Fortunately enough, I was able to remove them from the site, which they would have been killed because when the eruption occurred, there was a debris flow that went into the former evacuation area where they were at, where I removed them, and they would have been dead.
Okay.
Again, who
Okay.
is to say who's smarter after?
Right, but you see, there's my question. There is obviously there's the good governance and bad governance. You obviously had the foresight to do that. I mean, this administration, however, didn't have such foresight that you do. I mean, we don't know what.
There's no accounting for foresight. If you're in the government, I guess you have to err in the side of caution. And I wouldn't second guess that because it would be unfair for me to do that. But again, most of the deaths occurred in the front line, in the coastline of Leyte, in the 5 towns: Tacloban, Palo, Tolosa, Dulag, Tanawan, and some places up north. These are all coastal areas that are pretty much flat land. They were attacked by the winds, and then they were engulfed by huge waves. So you had to hold on for dear life. Those who were able to hold on saved themselves. Those that evacuated early may have saved themselves, but many did not. So you have about 6,000 to maybe 10,000 people who died.
Okay, there's a bit disparity there. 60 to 100 to 10,000. There's 4,000 people difference. That could so you're estimating the death toll to be 6,200 to 10,000 people dead.
I'm saying that that's a possibility because they could have been sucked in by the waves and taken offshore.
I mean,
And
I mean,
you
2 months into it,
and
we don't have an official figure by now. It's been 2 months into the.
no, unfortunately, the government stopped counting at 6,700, if I'm not mistaken.
Why do you think that is? Why is that?
Well, I suppose I don't know why, but one of the things that I'm doing in the Red Cross, for example, is making sure that I create 44 people in every village.
Okay, so why can't they do that?
That means that they know the blood type of every person, that they know who's living in what place, and that we will compare this with the voters list so that after a disaster, the government can easily compare the missing with the voters list.
Right.
So they have the addresses, but again, the addresses are gone. They're all debris now. So it's really very, very difficult for them
But the
to really
addresses
look
are
for.
kept in a public record somewhere that is safe, and obviously the record that data is out there for consensus purposes. Even obviously it's there. Wouldn't the
So where's
government?
the question?
Well, I'm wondering. So why don't they have access to that information? Why is there such in the dark about this? The number.
Well, I far be from my mind to fathom what is happening to the minds of the people in charge. But then
Hmm.
I don't want to second guess them. It would be easy to order the national census to conduct a census there right now and find out how many people actually died.
All
That
right.
won't harm anybody. But then I suppose between all the challenges ahead, like building homes, providing food, hospitals, medical care, and the general aspect of rebuilding not only the homes but the shattered spirit of a people. Uh, there's an awful lot to do.
So are you saying there that it's possible that there will be no official death toll release, like as far as the number goes?
You better ask the government that. I'm not going to answer that for you.
Okay, all right, it's fair enough. President Aquino himself said a better forecasting system is needed. I have been in contact with scientists who track hurricanes for a living, and they're saying that they have worked with Pagasa and that they have top-notch instrumentation there. On top of that, Pagasa is affiliated with organizations such as the World Meteorological Organization and the Japanese Meteorological Agency, which I assume can only assume and imagine that would have such technology. The scientific data at least a week ahead, and then Tacloban, it is being claimed by these scientists that could have been evacuated in 2 days. Do you think that's a fair assessment or realistic assessment? 2 days to evacuate
That's
Tacloban?
that's hypothetical. You would need at least that's Tacloban alone is one city. That's 60,000 people. The other towns would amount to about the same thing, 500,000, 5,000 I talked with.
Mhm.
But there are other towns around the coastline as well. So you would have to know that G1 was also hit in Samar. That was actually ground zero.
Mm.
And all the entire coastline of Samar was hit also. So how do we evacuate that when the military doesn't have sufficient trucks? All right?
So
You would have to commandeer every jeep, every truck, every car. That's easier said than done. Something I can say about Katrina as well was Katrina, when Katrina happened, was it Category 5?
Mhm.
And it went over the dikes and smashed into New Orleans and flooded many people. It's exactly what happened.
Mm.
So nobody is that good. The rule is save yourself. What
Right.
about the father of the family? What happened to Patria Potestas?
Mm.
The government only sits in local parentis, but you should really have not Patria Potestas, but that kind of parental authority on the part of every family, if they're properly warned, that they must do and save themselves right away.
Okay, but then it's don't you
That's
think?
something that you should teach in the culture.
Right. Yeah. I know. It's the passion of the Filipino. It's very much there and very
No,
much
no, it's not
alive.
Filipino. What happened what happened in the snowstorm in New York
Oh.
recently? The mayor is being tasked for not ordering suspension of classes. What happened in some highways in America where people died? Still,
Mhm.
there's got to be absolute responsibility
Exactly.
eventually on the
Right.
individual. The government should do its best to try and tell them what's going on. And when the disaster happens, they have to be not just reactive but proactive.
Right.
But I don't want to be in the position of the government. I am a volunteer,
Right.
head of a volunteer organization. We do our job, and that's why maybe you should work with me so you can get
Right.
on
I'm
board when
thinking
I talk with Typhoon Gordon, when I talk with my staff, because
Typhoon Gordon.
I told them they have to be overly prepared. Just now, I was reading to them an item that appeared in the Philippine Star today that says there's a threat of global disease outbreaks, that can affect 27 million, that can affect 27 nations. And I remember all the stuff about the great epidemic, the great influenza,
Hmm.
which occurred in 1917, which killed anywhere from 50 to 100 million people. Even there's no agreement on how many people actually died.
Mm.
But the estimates are 50 to 100 million.
Okay.
Just on flu. On flu.
Right.
They called it Spanish flu
Right.
only because Spaniards were the only ones who were honest about the other nations were at war
All
and
right.
they didn't want to discourage their countries. That's why when Spain came out, they called it Spanish flu. But actually, it originated in America.
Historical proof. There you go. Okay, we're talking about passion here. There is chatter that the lack of action from the Aquino government is equivalent to genocide. Now, that's pretty serious stuff.
That's
Thousands are
that's
dead.
overboard.
Thousands are dead because they were not told they are not going to
I
die.
think you're referring to a statement in the Sudetan land with China, not this one. Where ultimately it occurred, genocide occurred in Germany.
Well,
All right,
there you
okay.
go. In your own words, ultimately, shouldn't someone or some people should be held accountable given the scientific data and what's out there? I mean, what do you tell the people that think it was genocide?
Well,
What do you tell them?
Japan has a stronger culture. Remember, they were also part and parcel of what happened in World War II. But remember also when Kobe happened and there was no water, the Kobe general manager of the Kobe water system committed suicide.
Oh, but that's, Japanese culture, that practice is.
Very good. I was laying the predicate for you to say culture. Our culture is a very forgiving culture,
Hmm.
and that's why we are where we are today.
Okay, fair enough. But we can't deny that politics is playing a very ugly role in many aspects pre and post Haiyan. Ultimately, we know that
I, I'm,
Tacloban.
I'm going to say something.
Okay.
When you start talking about SWS surveys and Pulse Asia, they will say Aquino is very popular. I don't know. I disagree with that.
Mm,
And I agree with a certain point about that. But there's a propaganda machine also occurring here.
right.
And I'm going beyond that. Please do not quote me on that. I mean, I think I went beyond that
You're
because
on record
I
right
think
now, so just for your
you're trying
information.
to lay the predicate. There's got to be some responsibility, obviously. And I'm not ready to say the Aquino government committed genocide or the Aquino government was totally remiss. But like I said, it takes leadership and people to prevent such a big disaster.
Okay. I want to talk about. Okay, obviously, Tacloban is a stronghold of the Romualduses, which has strong ties with the Marcoses, the political rival of the Aquinos. It is an easy game of
Yes.
connect the dots. These political dynasties, and I know that you're not a fan of these dynasties or these rivalries, and their interest seems to have prevailed over the people of Tacloban. What's your thought on this?
Well, democracy is that way. You have the candidates being elected all the time. You have Brown in California. You have the Roosevelts from time to time have been elected. The Taps have been elected. I mean, it's really democracy. But to me, when you use politics to make excuses,
Hmm.
that becomes really dicey. I wouldn't even go into that.
Hmm. All right, that's fair enough. I can take that. How confident are you that the money and relief goods that are being brought in through government channels are being distributed accordingly?
As a general rule, I believe that they're doing it right, but obviously there will be man is human, prone to errors and prone to negligence and prone to graft. There will be something like that. That's why I think Mr. Lacson is appointed. I don't think he was appointed to check the disaster, but to check the graft. That's what I'm beginning to realize. But to my mind, as a general rule, I think Filipinos should try to help one another. And I don't also, Filipinos should also, like any other country, try to look for one mistake and magnify it.
Okay. Okay. For those who are not aware of who Lacson is, could you tell our viewers who that is?
Yeah, I think that's good. For example, there was talk about these bunk houses. I think that people were in a hurry to build bunk houses, but they didn't realize that you have to import most of the wood. That the labor wasn't just available, the skilled labor, and the speed that had to be done was necessary. I don't want to sound like an apologist for the Aquino government. I would have done it another way,
Mm.
but they did it that way. Bank houses are there, not up to standard.
Mm.
Well, they have to live up with that.
So
They have to account for that.
okay. So who then is the independent or neutral organization overseeing to make sure that the relief operations are being done according to international standards? If we can even say that.
Well, the Red Cross will always try to build in accordance with national standards. And again, like I said, international standards are important. We have a good national standard in our national building code. But sometimes when the resources are really limited, you just have to. Who is to say that a bank house that doesn't live up to international standards is not better than a tent which leaks?
Right. Okay.
Let's put it that way. Would you rather have them living in tents that leak or tarpaulins?
Mm.
I think people can people are living in a wooden bunkhouse is a lot better off. But it may be tight, not conducive. But rather than live in an evacuation center where they're mixed with so many people and susceptible to diseases,
Right.
or maybe even susceptible to sexual harassment or whatever, I'd rather have them live in bunkhouse.
Right.
I'm not. As you can see, I'm a politician. I cannot deny that. I try to be a very good politician in the sense that I am a man of the people. I try to live up to my code about serving the people. There are bad politicians. These bad politicians you have to identify and make sure that they're not able to do their worst upon us.
Okay. Okay. We bring up politics one more time. Because I saw an interview with a politician named Lucy Torres. I'm not sure if you know her, but there was.
Yes, this movie actress. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. To be frank,
And congresswoman.
I'm appalled by her umbrella commentary reference that some people were supposedly denied relief goods because of their voting preferences or their political affiliation. Like hindi tayo magkapayong, which means you don't vote for my party, so you don't get these goods. They were denied. Is there truth to this? And if so, were the guilty ones ever prosecuted?
That has been known to happen. And that's why I'm in the Red Cross. We don't do it that way. We don't give it to the politicians. And when we give to the most vulnerable. And after we give it to the most vulnerable, if there's still extra, then we will give to some more. But there's got to be standards in that. And, it's awful just to give dole outs everywhere, assessment. But sometimes, like I said, even in Leyte, I was trying to make an exception of Leyte and say, let's just give to anybody who needs it. But normally we give 30%. We couldn't even give 100%. We were able to give to maybe about 30 to 40%. We were assessing every barangay and we were giving to those. And so, if you don't give somebody, even if it's not as hard up as the one that was given, he will say, "Oh, I was not given." So you can never please everybody.
So it was like is an extrapolation. Was that an extrapolation on her part to make such a statement, or do you think it was?
Maybe politics is very sensitive with that area. People people are very political oriented. They're still living, perhaps, maybe to a certain extent, in the what you call a patronage system.
Mm.
When you have many who are poor, there's a tendency to have a lot of patronage. So everything you give is counted as a possible political vote
Like loyalty.
or political advantage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, all right. As a chairman of Red Cross Philippines, what is your view on how the Aquino administration has handled Haiyan before and after it occurred?
I can't make any statement about that. I'm bound by our principles of the Red Cross to be independent of the government, to be neutral, to be impartial. My task is to bring as much of the goods that I have, the money that we have received, and account for it by way of making sure that we give it. And we have hired KPMG to make sure that our accounting is done right.
KPNG is
So KPMG is an international accounting firm.
okay. Um, okay. With reference to what you just said, was the Red Cross allowed to perform its functions this time? Because I saw you during the Bohol earthquake, and you were trying to give away relief goods, and you were stopped from doing that. Wasn't that correct? Because I saw that on television. Now,
Yeah, there's a mayor who said that I should give him the goods. That's one of the examples I want to cite. We did not give him the goods. We told him in plain, simple, unequivocal terms, we do not give to the mayors. We give to the vulnerable because that's our rule.
okay. So,
And he can all he want, but that's all he can do. Yeah,
right.
because maybe he's got other agenda.
Well, there's always interest in some form. Okay, on foreign aid, this is big now because you want. There's a lot of talk about foreign aid. As Red Cross chairman, how do you feel about people saying that the Philippines is no longer a poor country based on its ranking on the International Monetary Fund as well as the competitiveness index? That the
Yeah, I mean,
Philippines can bear the brunt of Haiyan on its own. What do you say to these people who think that way?
I've been in government for a long time. The growth is there. I don't know if it's accurate. The growth is there because of overseas Filipino workers sending money to the Philippines. All right, that has fueled growth of malls and housing. All right, and consumption. Also, we have had a surfeit of jobs created by in the past administration, started by the past administration, of call centers, who are better paid than most. But still, the growth is not inclusive. You know, it is exclusive to those who are able to go abroad, who are able to get a job. But the job generation is very, very weak. In fact, it grew again this year. I think about to 12%. 12%, if I'm not mistaken. Can we verify that? 12% unemployment. So you can see that's a large amount. You have to create about at least 1 million jobs a year, and they're not able to do that. That's the graduating students every year.
So you encourage the donor community, the international community, to still give donate to Red Cross or other channels at this point.
Oh, You're not going to hear me complain about that. I'm pretty proud of our organization. I am a governor of the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. I was elected in absentia. That means that they trust me. Even if I was not at Sydney for the convention, I got elected. And that's why perhaps a lot of people trust the Philippine Red Cross because we've really been a no nonsense organization. And you know how I handled tourism. It was no nonsense with very little money.
Right.
We did Wow Philippines. And you know how I handled Subic.
PATA president during your time.
It was not robbed, stolen, or pillaged. And the Americans left, unlike the other bases. We were able to use volunteers to do that. But still, people will still attack you because envy has no limits.
Right, exactly. I agree with you on that. What issues
Thank
and
you.
or concerns do you have now post at this stage of post Haiyan?
We have to be faster in terms of delivering the goods. When you call me, I'm in a meeting. We just had a summit of the International Federation here of all the leaders of the Red Cross who have been giving from the international community, and I want the houses done as fast as we can. And we're just talking about it right now. And I want more regional disaster centers, training centers, and management centers, uh, so that we don't have to bring it overland or by ship. We will preposition payloaders, water tankers, food, blankets, non-food items, tents, so that it's near the battleground, near the affected zone. I said battleground because remember, Red Cross has a charter also on conflict,
Right.
right? So we're
That's,
trying to bring all the goods and the medicines near all these areas of conflict and near all these areas of devastation.
Chairman Gordon, we've known each other for probably about approximately 15 years, and I'm witness to your capabilities in governance and commitment to do good.
Thank you.
As Action Gordon, the politician, and now you are referred to just as Chairman Gordon. Um, can we
With no pay,
expect? Can we expect
no
Action
pay.
Gordon?
I'm not paid by the Red Cross. I just want to be sure
No,
about that.
but can we expect Action Gordon, the politician, to come back and do good again? What's your comment on that?
As much as I can have faith in a Nelson Alcantara suddenly becoming congressman of the United States of
Come
America.
on now. All right, that's fair enough. Okay, what's Red Cross's message today?
Red Cross is trying its best, and I can tell you, my people are stretched out, but they're doing their job as volunteers and as staff famously. They're very, very hardworking, but I'm still not satisfied. We have to ratchet up the bar. We have to make sure that we become, as I've always envisioned the Red Cross to be, the foremost humanitarian organization. And for that, we need to be well organized with volunteers all over the country. If I can have the entire country, uh, included in the culture of volunteerism and the culture of humanitarianism, I think we will have less problems. I think we would lick the problem and we would be smarter, we would be faster, we would be more focused, we'd be more flexible and always forward looking.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other thoughts that you want to share or tell the world at this point?
Well, thank you to all the people who believe in the Red Cross. I just want to assure you that we are grateful in behalf of the many people who are vulnerable right now. We'll get the job done, but it will never be enough. Try to think of somebody who very comfortably could sleep in his own home, go to school with books and notebooks, with even some form of transportation, with not worrying about the next meal. Now you have millions of people who are exposed to that. I'm not just talking about the Visayas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the earthquake in Bohol, which has been forgotten, and we've not forgotten Bohol. That's a major disaster by itself that got stepped on by the bigger disaster of Haiyan. But at the same time, there's Zamboanga. And by the way, just about a month ago, we just finished building houses for Compostela Valley and for Davao Oriental, and all of a sudden they're deluged again by a monsoon that attacked them for 2 weeks and would not go away. There were floods, but mercifully enough, our houses withstood that because they were on safe ground. So we will keep on pushing. We will keep on fighting for our people, hopefully educating them more, mentoring them more by way of training volunteers in their villages, in their barangay. And I hope and pray that the world helps us with this continuously, especially on the software training people, and so that we can continue. There's a cycle of disaster and poverty in this country. This is a country that is really, really a great country. You can see all the Filipinos working abroad who used to come from the Philippines and now work abroad.
Right.
They've done very, very well abroad. So if there was no cycle of disaster and poverty, if there's less cycle of disaster and corruption, then I think it will be a lot better country.
Well, but if all those qualified workers have gone and left, there's a brain drain problem in the Philippines. That means you don't have enough. Those that are capable are leaving the country for a better future, right? I mean, that's also fair assessment.
It's a brain drain, but we're able to make sure that we also education is so ingrained and such an ambition for every Filipino. For example, you'll be happy to know that in Samar, some of the best grades in in testing, education testing, come from that area. They're dirt poor, but education is so important that they always perform very well. If I memory serves correct, that area, Leyte and Samar, they've got good education out there. People, the education is good not because they have schools, but because people know that the way out of darkness, the way into opportunity is by way of education.
Yeah, that's empowerment. Yeah, education, through education.
Thank you.
Sir, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for taking the time to talk with ETN 2.0, and I look forward to contacting you again till the next episode, and whenever that is, it will happen. I'm sure of it. We'll see each other some point.
All right. I still am thinking of your program, but I'm trying to find out who I can get at this time because I might think it's frivolous on my part to do that. Anyway, you know what we're talking about. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Have a good day.